Welcome, friends. Today's speaker will focus on the question of whether life is an illusion. After this hour, we'll have a short break for refreshments, followed by readings and discussions from the Living the Life series. Next Sunday's 11 a.m. talk is on the masterworks of modern theosophy. The ULT is guided by its declaration printed on the back of our program, which is here in print and also on our website. The declaration says, "The policy of this lodge is independent devotion to the cause of theosophy, without professing attachment to any theosophical organization. It is loyal to the great founders of the theosophical movement, but does not concern itself with dissensions or differences of individual opinion. The work it has on hand and the end it keeps in view are too absorbing and too lofty to leave it the time or inclination to take part in side issues. That work and that end is the dissemination of the fundamental principles of the philosophy of theosophy and the exemplification and practice of those principles through a truer realization of the self, a profounder conviction of universal brotherhood. It holds that the unassailable basis for union among theosophists, wherever and however situated, is similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching, and therefore has neither constitution, bylaws, nor officers, the sole bond between its associates being that basis. And it aims to disseminate this idea among theosophists in the furtherance of unity. It regards as theosophists all who are engaged in the true service of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization. And it welcomes to its association all those who are in accord with its declared purposes, and who desire to fit themselves by study and otherwise to be the better able to help and teach others. The true theosophist belongs to no cult or sect, yet belongs to each and all." Today's reading is from the Voice of the Silence. "3 halls, O weary pilgrim, lead to the end of toil. 3 halls, O conqueror of Mara, will bring thee through 3 states, into the 4th, and thence into the 7 worlds, the worlds of rest eternal. If thou wouldst learn their names, then hearken and remember. The name of the first hall is ignorance, avidya. It is the hall in which thou sawest the light, in which thou livest and shalt die. The name of hall the second is the hall of learning. In it thy soul will find the blossoms of life, but under every flower a serpent coiled. The name of the third hall is wisdom, beyond which stretch the shoreless waters of Akasha, the indestructible fount of omniscience. If thou wouldst cross the first hall safely, let not thy mind mistake the fires of lust that burn therein for the sunlight of life. If thou wouldst cross the second hall safely, stop not the fragrance of its stupefying blossoms to inhale. If freed thou wouldst be from the karmic chains, seek not the Guru in thy myopic regions. The wise ones tarry not in pleasure grounds of senses. The wise ones heed not the sweet-tongued voices of illusion. Seek for him who is to give thee birth in the hall of wisdom, the hall which lies beyond, wherein all shadows are unknown, and where the light of truth shines with unfading glory. And now for today's talk is life and illusion.
Good morning, friends, and welcome. This is a very vast subject because it really does touch upon the fundamentals of the philosophy. We're going to start with the absolute and bring it down. And at this level, we really cannot quite form the specific ideas about things because there is one unity, it has no characteristics. But as soon as we come to the this is the first, and then there is the second logos, and it is described as light. The first one does not participate in manifestation, but the second one does. So at this level then, contrast comes into it. The first is with the absolute, has no characteristics, it's in duration, not in time and space. But after this, we come to time and space. So here, then, manifestation takes place, differentiation takes place. This is radiation here, the first. This is emanation. Emanation is when one level of existence, of one level of being, emanates out of itself as to what is going to be in the next level of being. And these are explained in the Secret Doctrine and also in the Transactions. She gives a very good explanation, and this is how evolutionary process takes place. Perhaps we should put here also evolution. Because without that emanative power of nature, things would not come about. And eventually, through this process, we come to our world, which is part of the solar system, our Earth. But whatever she writes, she says only related to the Earth itself. So, this differentiation in the Secret Doctrine is given as the great breath. Great breath. The outgoing, in other words, brings about our world, and of course, consciousness is in here. And this is one of the fundamental propositions of the Secret Doctrine, that all nature is conscious. Every level has its own consciousness that is appropriate to itself, but there is nothing unconscious in our universe. So when we come, may I erase it? When we come to our lives, life, becomes is one. So in our essence, we're all one. Material essence is the same because it is undifferentiated at first and then it differentiates. So when we say life, then most of the people do not consider life as a conscious existence in spirit, but in general we're talking about physical existence with the functional organs, the brain, and the consciousness then is exhibited through the physical body. This is what general people talk about. And then, of course, life and death become great mysteries. And so long as we're just discussing senses, this will go on. Because knowledge is not just materialistic scientific hypotheses, or the other one, which gives us dogmatic religion, which is a made-up philosophy or theory about our existence. So, in this philosophy of the ages, and it is general, it belongs to all humanity, life is on a continuum. We come into earth existence because we are here to experience life through a physical organ, the body, and then go to a rest period, and then again come back for reincarnation to continue on our learning experience. But in the made-up stuff, this is separate. Life, death is separate from one another, and a soul is made for that particular individuality, and at the end of it, it just disappears. So, with regard to consciousness and life then, in this philosophy, they're co-eternal and coexistent. Without this knowledge, man then seeks happiness. They're here and they're after happiness. What would that happiness be dependent on? How could anyone be happy without knowing the philosophy that enables one to exist? So it is based on physical happiness, power, position, resources, money, all this people are after. And once we get it, are we happy? Are we better than we were before? And once one thing is achieved, we immediately go to the achievement of the next thing, because there is no satiation in human nature that something is enough. So, this philosophy teaches us that life is continuous, and we are to seek a life consciousness spirit and not physical matter. So, conscious and spirit. And for this reason, the teachers come. All these teachers that come to different quarters of the world come from the same brotherhood, same fraternity. They come to teach according to the age and the mind of the race what they can give out at that time. So, how are we to learn? How do we learn to live in a conscious life in a spirit? Truth. We have to look for the truth. There is no religion higher than truth, is what it says on the cover page of the Secret Doctrine. This is the motto of the Theosophical movement. What are the laws that we need to learn depend on it? Truth and law is also synonymous? Well, we talked about the absolute and how manifested universe and all that is contained in it comes about. And we said that the essence that brings this about is one, and in the core of our being, we are also one. So there is one truth, but we have to approach it from the law perspective. What is the law? Unity, brotherhood. Unity, brotherhood. So, if we are then after personal things, including happiness, what is it based on? Gratification for ourselves. It does not base itself on unity or brotherhood, which is the law of nature. And we really need to ask ourselves to what should we base this happiness on? What should it be based on? There is a very illustrative article on it. It says here that if we look at our economic, social, educative opportunities and what our historical era shows us, that we come to the conclusion that age, sex, social or race distinction, education and economic conditions really are not central facts when it comes to happiness and love. Thank you. And that if we were to look at it, we would come to the conclusion that where there is deep love and happiness, the natures of those individuals are strong, generous, and they have unusual degree of integrity, honesty, sincerity, and altruism. And this kind of love can be between a parent and child, a man and wife, brother and sister. It can be an abiding friendship, or it can be between a teacher and a disciple. And those who love one another in this way may be housed in the same place. They may be separated on different parts of the globe. They might be on different sides of life and death. Their contact might be frequent, it might be rare, or intangible altogether. Love, it is stated, which gives happiness, when it is the master power, is bound by no conditions. It has no domain over time, space, mind, and matter. So, according to this statement, then, we cannot connect it to emotions, we cannot connect it to the mind, because all those change. This kind of love is stationary, it does not change. And when you look around to our society, people are getting married for love and then getting divorced, then getting married and getting divorced, and it kind of brings the question to the forefront: what should marriage be based on? Should it be just on emotional gratification, or are there other factors involved? It says that a marriage to be richly rewarding has to be based on other qualifications: duty and responsibility. responsibility. But in this age, this is not very attractive to anybody, especially in the Western world. Americans especially feel that the pursuit of happiness, this is HPB's statement I'm going to put out here, consists chiefly, if not entirely, in taking the risks of that lottery where there are so many more blanks than prizes. This is HPB's statement. So, since the marriage disintegrates quite a bit in the States, we need to take into consideration if this is illusory, what we're after, or if there is a basis to it that is not illusory. Well, what should we base it on? Illusory intensities of passion, purely selfish desire for conquest and possession, or should it be infatuation, fancy, fantasy, or what should it be based on? These are all kind of irrational things that each human being suffers from. But philosophy, properly speaking, deals with the attitudes of the mind. Attitudes of the mind. So the mystery of love is hardly sensed by those who do not wonder about its origin, think of its power, and try with imagination and will to raise their love to a higher potency. And we read from the Voice of the Silence this morning. Perhaps love, at its purest expression, is like that great ensnarer that we read in the Voice of the Silence. And we were there told that there were 3 holes. And we have to pass through these. And the great dire heresy of separateness has to be rooted out of us. First, the hole of ignorance, which is crossed safely when the mind no longer mistakes the fires of lust that burn therein for the sunlight of life. Next, in the hole of learning, the neophyte finds the blossoms of life, but under every flower a serpent coiled, and is counseled thus: the wise ones tarry not in pleasure grounds of senses. The wise ones heed not the swing-tongued voices of illusion. Seek for him who is to give thee birth in the hall of wisdom, the hall which lies beyond, wherein all shadows are unknown, and where the light of truth shines with unfading glory. The hall of learning, then, is the place of soul's probation. And in one sense, all life is probationary. So, the dangerous realm of Mara, over which plays the deceptive light of partial knowledge, has to be met and conquered. And this is what plays on the fascination exercised by vice upon certain natures. What exactly does that statement mean? Should we look into it a little bit? Well, before we brought everything from the absolute to the manifested universe and ourselves. Mind. It's the attitude of the mind that when it is changed, it embraces new spheres of knowledge. Mind works in 2 different ways. In the higher, it's one mind, but it works in 2 different ways, and the other one is lower. Scientific world does not accept this, but nevertheless it's proven by thousands and thousands of years of experience by the Master's Lodge. The higher mind, if altruistic, goes towards unity and brotherhood. The lower mind pulls it down because it is personal, self-oriented. These two cannot serve the same master. One of them has to become the server of the other. Now, at this stage of our development, the lower mind is absolute because it assumes that the role, nothing else is out there. It takes charge and it moves everything in that direction. But when we invite this other aspect of ourselves, the divine mind, it slowly comes in and raises the thief to higher levels of consciousness, because it's a thief. The lower mind is a thief because it assumes that same role we just talked about. So, in order for that illusion to disappear, false beliefs have to be extinguished. Where does that come from? Where does all that falsity come from? Well, we said that in the manifested world, there are 7 levels of existence, seven planes of consciousness that has its own special substance relative to it. So truth then has to be perceived either with the highest or with all of it. So in the astral light then, everything exists, but it is upside down. This is the elusive part right here. Until we can go to the higher aspects of this field operation, which is called Akasha in the secret doctrine, we cannot get at the truth. We're looking at it either from one aspect, 2 aspects, or our vision is colored in that particular tunnel that we're grooved in, and we cannot get to reality. So we need to be very aware that the foundation of our thinking, if it comes from here, it's illusory. But it fools us. It makes you believe that it's real. That's the key to it. But one example was given, and that was that men at least likes to have one other companion. Just imagine if you were all by yourself in this world, just you. It is not very attractive to the human soul. And it's said to think about it not as a dislike, that the soul does not like to be left alone, but that maybe the soul knows what unity and brotherhood is, and its tendency is to be united to others. It's a very interesting concept, by the way. So, the overwhelming realization that then is the principle of brotherhood, and this is natural to the soul. But the outer man, the personal man, conforms to that ideology depending on the mind. Where is its thinking principle? Is it illusory, or is it going towards the truth and it perceives beyond the illusory nature of our world? So, if we then approach that aspect of love, is it a brotherhood aspect, or is it the essence of love? Now, this is very important for everybody to think about. Is the essence of love brotherhood, or is it just an aspect of it that is love? In its ultimate sense then, brotherhood is that conviction that every life and every soul has a relationship and identity with all the others. We said we come from the same essence at the beginning. We are an exhibit of that same power. In each one, though, it finds a different expression, but the essence, the power is the same. So then brotherhood becomes a point of agreement between all beings, because we said it partakes in the one oversoul. There's only one oversoul. There isn't two, there isn't three, just one. We all participate in it. So then, if it is that, then love exists of itself. It's not dependent on anything. It's the core of our being. It's there. So, such love then is evidently wisdom, untouched by pairs of opposites, untroubled by works, fruits of works, or desires. It maintains an even keel of equal-mindedness, which is perfection of a skill in the performance of action, and thus it shapes the motive of right action. So then, according to this philosophy, how do we gain it? Well, we have to become worthy of it. It's not bestowed on us. We have to learn it. It cannot be given, but it can be learned. Love then, when it is real, pure and deep, has been for many an intimation of immortality, because it shows the deathlessness of soul. That friendship, that love we feel for our children, that between father and mother, or between the child and the parents, or the initiate and the teacher, all those we mentioned were based on pure love. And this also is a proof for reincarnation, that we have known before, and it comes again and again on a continuum, because life is on a continuum, and we reestablish our love with all those that we had lived with before. So then, love and hate brings us together again. But eventually, the opposites, love and hate, has to go. Because if we are partial to one or the other, according to HPB, to that extent we become a black magician, because we are not considering the all. We are part of the all. And I will read this from H. Blavatsky. It's a quotation. She says, "Pure divine love is not merely the blossom of a human heart, but has its roots in eternity. The spiritual holy love is immortal, and karma brings, sooner or later, all those who love each other with such a spiritual affection to incarnate once more in the same family group. Again, we say that love beyond the grave, illusion though you may call it, has a magic and divine potency which reacts on the living. It will manifest in their dreams, and often in various events, in providential protections and escapes, for love is a strong shield and is not limited by space or time." And the relevance of this to the students of Theosophy is that such a karmic bond of a spiritual affection create family members that are mutually devoted to living the higher life, and they are faithful to the heart doctrine. Parents whose love for each other opens to some degree the third eye will find in everyday life correspondences and analogies for the ethereal race of mind-born sons, and will begin to feel the force that theosophical attraction is based on that unity, the brotherhood. And children growing up in the presence of a love that is the sunshine of life will assimilate, it is stated, more willingly the karma of their heredity and environment, and come to appreciate early in life the functional affinities of soul evolution. This kind of family, where spiritual affection is the ideal, will never be disintegrated because it is not bound by time and space. It remains as a nucleus of countless ramifying relationships whose common denominator is the impulse to unity and brotherhood. So it is in itself a theosophical movement with immeasurable potentialities for the progress of mankind. So this is what we are taught, that life is on a continuum. Only its physical aspect is illusory. The soul and spirit aspect is what needs to be learned and concentrated upon, because that is the connective link that lives across time and space and enables greater work for humanity to be done. And now we will open it for questions.
You said,
Nadine wants to ask.
Okay,
Liddy, go ahead.
go ahead. So are we supposed to get rid of love with preferences?
I'm sorry, say it again.
How, so if we have preferences of love toward family or friends, HPB says that that's like black magic, that eventually love and hate has to go, so we have no preferences in love.
Well, that you have even or equal mindedness towards it, because this is one unity. We're all in it together, and one brotherhood of men. And those who love and those who hate one another are in that same pot. And if I am part of them, they're also part of me. And that is how you have to look at unity and one level of, one consciousness, one unity. By the same token, we're individuals. And that progressive march towards expression of a higher life has to be achieved by each human being with self-devised, self-induced effort, it is stated. So, human love is a teacher. It teaches us sacrifice. It teaches us forgiveness. So, no one is saying that love does not have its place in human life. What it needs to convert itself to is this kind of love that we talked about today, where its basis is not emotional, but it is duty and responsibility based, and all of the individuals in that group love one another with a altruistic love. And we mentioned them earlier, the altruistic love, that love does not need to be served, that you don't want anything in return. That kind of love that needs to be exhibited by our society eventually, because if it is based on an emotion, it's illusory. Because look what happens to people. They go with emotion, and then they're hating their partner, or they're ugly to their partner. In fact, some of them kill their partner for love. So what kind of love is that? Those were the things that we were discussing in that particular case. So this love that she's talking about is one that is not limited by space or time. It is over that. In other words, in each life, these souls that are living together in one life come back again, because the love is not emotion-based. It is based on brotherhood and higher altruistic expression of that. So yes, that if you look at, we said that these individuals show very different characteristics, and these were the ones that those who have enduring love in family life have deep and strong and generous natures, and they are marked to an unusual degree by integrity, honesty, sincerity, and altruism. All these are higher aspects that need to be expressed if you love someone, not that jealousy based on attraction alone that is emotional, because emotions are illusory. It fools the mind, and we read it from the voice, then it wrecks the soul, because the soul immediately goes where the mind goes. And in another place, it said here, to violate in the name of love the integrity of another, though that other raises no objection and perceives no crippling of his will, is to betray the brotherhood of men, and to deny oneself the exalting power of real love. To tarnish or blunt the bright edge of compassion by insisting that love be served, repaid, rewarded, or admired is to select for one's future the trial of a demanding passion. So it's not a passion-emotion relationship. Love, brotherhood, compassion cannot be taught, but can be learned, is what we had said earlier. So it's that enduring love we are talking about that is not based on emotion, but rather on duty and responsibility and these aspects, that you respect the choices the other makes within that confinement, and that you are not exerting your will over them. This is what that really says. And your compassion, when true, does not expect anything in return. You do it because it's the right thing to do, right? Compassion. Love and compassion is quite similar here. So did that make it better? Okay.
You know,
Yes.
one of the concepts as above, so below, and you talked about nature, the natural process of love, which is brotherhood, which is unity. Do we not have that within us? And you're talking about learning it. We have it within us, right?
You
To
have
develop.
it within you, but you have to learn to express it towards another, and it does not. It cannot be emotion based, and our society is emotion based. That
Because we're material based.
Emotion, like, dislike, that cannot be a true basis for marriage, because marriage has to be an exalting experience for all those who are involved in that family. It is not emotion based. One doesn't say that one is not attracted to the other, but that cannot be sole deciding factor in life. But in the olden days, this student comes from a very old style of living, and families used to kind of gauge their kids for one another. They were at the same social level, and the marriage was based as an institutional opportunity to raise children that would be beneficent to society. I don't think that is in effect anymore. I don't think marriage at all considers that. These things have to be considered by the theosophical circles, because if we are here to make these advances in social norm for ourselves and become examples have to live a life, then we have to exhibit it first in our own lives. We cannot just say it. We have to live it. Only then, we are told, does these principles become part of our living the life, and then only then it becomes apparent as to what that truth really stands for. Until you live it, you're just saying it. You don't internally really know it. You have to experience the truth in order to know it. And if we are to exemplify it, then we have to live it. We cannot just say it. Does that make sense?
So does that get into the idea of why we need to become embodied, so that we develop that within ourselves for future lives and future generations, as well
Develop
as
what in ourselves?
develop that type of love that you're talking about, because it seems so absent in the world today. But we need to go in there and go through this process so that we become grounded in that higher love.
Well, this process becomes valuable to the student that has awakened to the soul possibilities of their own inner nature. However, one of the articles states that truth ought not to be hidden. Truth ought not to be hidden. That it needs to be said openly. It's said to say to all those who wish to listen and not force it. Say. What is at stake here is extremely important. The mind of humanity belongs to a grown-up humanity. We have not caught up to our spiritual obligations that this developed mind necessitates. We're still acting in a very selfish, materialistic way. There are two reasons for that. One is that science is purely materialistic. It does not accept anything it cannot see and touch. Purely materialistic. We know that life is on 7 different planes of existence. How much truth would you be able to obtain looking at it from only one plane of existence, the physical? And this physical existence is illusory. It's not even real, because only the noumenal which supports it behind it is the real. Until you reach the noumenal, you cannot really get at the truth. So our science, what kind of truth is it telling us? Out of 7 levels, it only looks at 1. What about religion? Not only is it materialistic, but it is also dogmatic. So our mind then has been boxed in. The mind of humanity has been boxed in. For thousands of years, this is how we have been trained, boxed in. Now, how are we going to crush that boundary of that box and allow the mind to perceive greater, more relevant truth? How are we going to do it? Until the falsities, illusory falsities, are removed from the mind, it cannot perceive the truth. So the statement you have made is for the soul who is awakened internally to its reality, that it's not physical, it perceives at a higher level that that soul is a spiritual. Its affinity has to become to what? To the spiritual truths that it accompanies in the imperishable center of the heart. We are told that over and over again, that there is an imperishable center in each human being. So there was something here, it says here, let me read it. how shall the disciple learn from his teacher, except as he comes to see through the teacher's eyes? And if all the great ones found within themselves the secret wisdom, shall the disciple look elsewhere for the truths that they know? It says here, there's a place in every heart where all the teachers live, where souls are one, and where the knowledge of all souls is found. Though it is internal. The knowledge is internal, it just needs to be brought to the forefront. And that requires unity, brotherhood, and altruistic service at its core. And this is what this love guidance was given, and HPB wrote on it to show us that without love, without loving one another, we aren't going any place. It's not just the family love that has to be there. We need to express it universally, because we all come from the same essence. We use the same substance. We're all the same, except its expression changes. And that comes from karma and reincarnation. What is the experience of that particular soul? What has it achieved in this life, for instance? And whatever is left that it needs to work on, it will then come back, the same individuality, but with a new personality that is going to work on the things were unfinished in the previous life. So if we accept karma and reincarnation, and HPV says in many, many places, many writing articles says that it is the cord that is missing in the Christian lens, in the West particularly, because it was taken out on purpose. That was taken out because the dogma that was brought forward could not be supported, and many a man burned on the cross because they would not go along with the Christian theology, which is dogma made up. That is a human mind unable to reach to the absolute, dwarfing and humanizing these concepts. But the human mind has grown. It has its possibilities greater now than ever before, because we have the freedom to learn the truth, and the truth needs to be said. The principles need to be explained and understood, and humanity then will naturally express those qualities that belong to the human kingdom. And what were they? Generosity, charity, justice. Because this philosophy teaches at the core where love is, also justice is. It's on the strict accordance with justice that law works. This is nature's law, not human-made law. It is a strict. It gives all that is deserved, and it punishes all that needs to be punished, in the sense that if we have disharmonized, then we're given the opportunity to harmonize it and bring it back to its harmonial place.
So, if we are one, you talked about being one with the Oversoul. We're linked to that, so we really are that. So we've dwarfed ourselves by this materialistic way of thinking. And I'm thinking about the title there, row, row, row your boat, life is but a dream. When you think about it on a material level, you're saying it is an illusion.
Mm-hmm. On the materialistic level, it is an illusion, because not only is it upside down, but as we said, we have to look at the truth from 7 aspects. And if you're coloring it with one color and all the others are missing, it's partial at best. So in order to get to the truth, we need to do the 7 or the highest, which is the spiritual. And we just read, in those families where the parents' pineal gland is some degree functional, then that becomes a sunlight of life. That family is basing their movement and ideology and thinking on unity and brotherhood, and it's the sunshine of life, and those kids will assimilate that faster. Children learn faster in those families. They assume their role and responsibility faster. Rather than resisting it, they absorb it. And that becomes a movement in itself. The family becomes a movement in itself because it has ramifications. It branches out. In each life it branches more and more, and it gathers more strength. It becomes a spiritual center from which influences then move outward as well.
So that kind of thinking really ushers in a higher level of
The golden
humanity
age in itself.
over
It
the years.
attracts
With
higher individualities into incarnation. It attracts beings from higher realms of existence to come and help. But we have to first exhibit it from here and attract them to come back.
So the ushering in of this golden age we hear about is in our hands.
Absolutely. In your hands, she tells Theosophy-Is, is the future of humanity. And to the degree that we do that work well, then humanity will be saved. Thank you.
Thank you.